There's good news for Paramount because it looks like they expect Sonic the Hedgehog 3 to do well in theaters. So much, in fact, that they've already announced that they've greenlit a fourth movie in the series. Now, just to be fair, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to make a fourth movie because early responses to Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is pretty positive so far, and it is reasonable to assume that this is going to make money for the studio. But if it just tanks, for instance, there's nothing that's obligating them to actually make a fourth movie, and they could just be saying this just so that they could get people to go to theaters thinking like, oh, well, this is a good movie, so maybe we should go check it out because apparently the studio has faith in it. They could be pulling that gambit, but I don't really think that's what's going to happen because by all accounts, this movie is pretty well received and it's looking like it's going to actually make money for the studio. Sonic the Hedgehog 4 in the works for 2027 release. Exclusive Paramount Pictures is preparing Sonic the Hedgehog 4 with the studio anticipating a spring 2027 release date for the latest entry in the family-friendly franchise. So it's not like they made this announcement or they're planning on making it beforehand. It's still a couple years away. So like if it was something like, oh, well, we have a fourth one coming out next year, that would indicate that they're well along the process in producing the movie and that just announcing it is kind of a formality. Right now, it's looking like that's probably not the case with it. They were looking at the early reception to this movie and they were thinking like, okay, that's pretty positive. So we're almost guaranteed to make money off this. So let's just go ahead and greenlight it for a fourth movie, which is what they're doing here. The news comes as Sonic the Hedgehog 3 races into theaters on Friday, where it is expected to top the box office with $55 million to $60 million from 3,800 North American theaters. The sequel is shaping up to be a nice holiday season hit for Paramount, hence the interest in more Sonic adventures internationally. The film will open in 52 markets in Christmas. Critics have also liked the latest movie, handing the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 an impressive 87% fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, jumping over to Rotten Tomatoes, you can see it has 87% fresh rating, but also 98% for audiences who've actually gotten to see the early screenings for this. So people are pretty well receptive of this movie. Not only that, though, but when you actually take into consideration some of the other movies in the Sonic franchise, the first movie, 93 for audiences, 64 for critics. And then for the second one, 69, nice for critics, and 96 for audiences. So audiences always love the Sonic movies. Critics, on the other hand, were a little bit lukewarm on it, but with 69 for the second movie, 64 for the first one, and now 87 for the third one. Granted, it's still early on, and usually early reviews tend to be a little bit more positive, even amongst critics, but still, 87% is high for the franchise, which indicates that, yes, people do like this movie. Now, as far as how much money it's making, that's another story because $50 to $60 million isn't necessarily a high for the franchise opening weekend, but the other two movies in the franchise opened at better times for movies like this. And that still would kind of put this one right in the middle if it does open up within that range. If it's more closer to the $60 million range that this could actually hit, then that wouldn't necessarily be the high for it. I think Sonic 2 opened up to around 65 or something like that. But it's still a pretty good haul for this. And for a budget of around $90 million roughly, that would mean that this movie probably needs to make around $300 million in order to be profitable. And by all accounts, it looks like that's going to happen with this one too. Together, the first two films have earned a combined global box office total of $725.2 million and driven over $180 million in global consumer spending from home entertainment rentals and digital purchases. They also inspired a spin-off Paramount Plus series, Knuckles, which came out earlier this year. Sonic the Hedgehog is based on the popular video game franchise, so we already know that. And then this is just kind of talking about the rest of the movie or whatever, like who's in it and all that other stuff. But I'm sure people know about that. Another indicator that this movie was probably, at least the studio intended to continue on with this. It's not like, oh, this is successful, so let's just do another cash grab sequel. There was a post-credit scene that was leaked earlier this week that kind of sets it up for a sequel. Now, obviously, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're definitely going to make a sequel. There's plenty of end credit scenes or movies that end on cliffhangers that never get picked up for another movie because it just wasn't good for them. But it does go to show that the studio was understand that there's places that they can go with this franchise, and that they're not just doing a sequel just for the sake of it. I mean, every movie in the Sonic franchise up to this point has pretty much built off of the prior movie and introduced more characters, because there's a huge world to the Sonic franchise that they can actually draw from on this one. And it looks like they continue on with this, and how far this can go remains to be seen, because there's enough there where it probably can keep them busy for quite a while, just so long as people are willing to watch it. And it really does look like that seems to be the case when it comes to the Sonic franchise. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Are you interested in seeing the Sonic movie? Have you seen the previous ones? Do you want them to continue with this franchise, or do you think they should just eventually call it quits? Comment below, let me know. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.